So you're not going to let me do a 94 feet with you?
Oh, I would love to. Absolutely.
All right, let's do it.
Oh, we're doing it right now?
Yeah.
What's up, you guys? I'm Rachel DeMita, and welcome to the Courtside Club. Today, we have former Duke Blue Devil and ESPN's college basketball analyst, Jay Bilas, joining us today. Jay, welcome to the Courtside Club.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on. This is an honor.
I know that you are such a busy guy, traveling all over. Where are you at right now?
I'm actually at home for a day. This has been the busiest sort of November, December I've ever had. By next Tuesday, after I get back from LA, I will have traveled 30,000 miles in 30 days. So that's sort of that's a longer, that's more travel than I'm used to.
Oh, geez. Well, I appreciate you taking the time and jumping on Courtside Club. Your Sky Miles and all of your accounts on all the airlines have to be platinum status, I'm sure.
Yeah, but it sucks because, you get all these miles and then, you can take trips, but I don't want to go anywhere after you finish the season.
Right. Well, I was excited to have you on because we really haven't gotten into college hoops much on Courtside Club yet. And I know that you are our college hoops expert and you have been for many, many years. So first off, you've been to a ton of games this season. You've been locked in. What teams stand out for you that we should be keeping our eye on?
Boy, the best teams I've seen, Purdue is really good, and they have something that nobody else has. They've got a 7'4" center named Zach Edey, who's just dominant and has been spectacular all year long. I think UConn has a great team. They've got two centers that play. Dama Sanogo is really good, and they've got a Jordan Hawkins as an NBA caliber shooter. So they're really good. And I think Houston stands out as one of the best teams because of the way they defend. They're physical. They rebound really well on both ends of the floor, and they're tough. I mean, they sort of lead the nation in playing hard. And there are a number of other teams that I think are really capable, but those three started the year with a great vibe and have a chance to be really good before it's all over.
You played college basketball, but you played under Coach K in his early days. So first of all, what was that like?
Well, first of all, thank you. That was a very nice way of calling me old. I played 30 some years ago for Coach K. And actually, he started recruiting me 40 years ago. So it's been a long time. Playing for Coach K was awesome. Everything about our relationship has been that. And that's really one of the cool things about playing for him early is the guys who played for him more recently that are in the NBA now or played for him in the last 10 years, they played for a better coach than we did. He's a better coach at the end than he was at the beginning, and that's what you'd expect. Hopefully we'd all get better as we get older and get more experience and all that. But the guys that I played with, we've all had him as our mentor and coach and friend for 40 plus years, and these guys aren't going to be able to duplicate that. So that was a really lucky happening in timing. Playing for him, being recruited by him before he was well known was a really cool thing because when he first started recruiting me, I'd honestly never heard of him. He had no track record. So you weren't committing to a reputation. You were committing to him personally without the fanfare that went along with it. And so I think all of us are really proud of the decision we made. At the time, when I committed to Duke, there were a lot of people that were saying, "What are you doing? Like, who is this guy? Like, why wouldn't you go play for Lute Olson or Jim Boeheim or go to Kansas or all this stuff and play for Ted Owens, who had unbelievable track records at the time?" But you just kind of knew that it was the right thing. And in hindsight, it seems like a no-brainer. But at the time, there were a lot of people that were doubting the decision.
Something that I've heard you say in other interviews is you talk about how college players, and you just said you did it yourself, go to a school for the coaches, but you're not always guaranteed to have those coaches there when you get there. And I'm somebody in my family, I'm the only person who's ever played a Division I sport. We were very naive to what recruiting was. And that was something that actually happened to me at Old Dominion. I got very close with the assistant coaches. And then when I got to campus, they were gone. So the reason I was going to this school, I overlooked some of the other things, and I was like, oh, they have a great program and I love these coaches and I've built this relationship. And when I got there, they weren't there. And you've been really outspoken about we should be able to give these kids the leniency. And with COVID, they didn't have to sit out a year, but now it's going back to, right? If you transfer as a Division I athlete, you have to sit out. Could you elaborate more on that? And what are your thoughts on maybe making that college experience a little bit better for kids who get into that situation?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's really a question of policy. So when I was in college back in the dark ages, I was a member of an NCAA committee. I was an athlete representative of the NCAA's long range planning committee. So I learned how NCAA policy worked and found out at the time that the transfer restriction was really only active in 5 sports. It was football, men's and women's basketball, hockey, and baseball. That was it. Every other athlete could transfer and be eligible right away. So I thought that was unfair. And when I was recruited, I came down to, I had 4 schools I came down to, but it really came down to Duke and Iowa. And the head coach at Iowa at that time was a gentleman named Lute Olson, who after what was my freshman year, he took a job at Arizona and became, the best coach Arizona ever had. They were, Final Four contenders every year and all that. But had I gone to Iowa, I would have been stuck at Iowa and he'd be at Arizona. And if I wanted to go with him out to Arizona, if he would have taken me out there, I would have had to sit out a year. And so what? I'd have to play my last year of college at age 23. Like, why? That makes no sense. And at least it made no sense to me. But the policy that the NCAA has, is athletes are students who just happen to be athletes, and they're students to be treated like any other student. But yet they're the only people in the college space or anywhere else that is not allowed to earn or accept their value in the marketplace. So you're not allowed any money, where every other student is allowed to make money and go to school and get a scholarship and do whatever they want, but athletes can't. And similarly, Rachel, like whether it's your experience at Old Dominion or mine, whatever, you have a certain level or reputation you get being recruited as a high school player, but that's not necessarily your limit. And so if you're seen a certain way and you're recruited on a certain level and you perform above that level when you're in college, why shouldn't you be allowed to jump up to another level and play on a different stage? The coaches get to do it. Like, well, if they're in a mid-major school and they start killing it and they get taken out of that job to a higher level, and nobody seems to have a problem with it. I don't see why it should be a big problem for a player. So there are just as many, if you want to call it this, just as many down transfers from high major schools to low major schools, and there are up transfers. So it's a little more difficult now for coaches to keep their rosters together. I get it. It's what they consider a problem, but I don't consider freedom of choice for the revenue drivers in the sports that we're talking about here. I don't consider that to be a problem. I consider it to be a good thing.
And you've seen now in college, right? We have NIL that you alluded to a little bit, but then you also have all these options for men's basketball players to not go to college, right? So we have G League, we have Ignite, you can go overseas now, you can just sit out a year. So from your perspective, watching college basketball as long as you can, what has been the biggest difference now that some of these new kind of policies have been implemented?
Well, the NIL is really just a first step toward athletes having full economic rights and being able to bargain with their schools for contracts and revenue sharing and things like that. We're going to get there eventually. It's inevitable in my view. All of this was inevitable. But athletes now have some options. And what it's really doing, Rachel, in my view, is it's keeping athletes in school longer, which for people like me, and I would assume you who believe in education, that's a good thing. So if athletes are in school longer, they're getting more education, which we say this is all about. This is what this is all about. So, we've seen a number of great players stick around for another year because of NIL, or at least being a major factor. And that's a good thing. Now that the NBA is headed toward eliminating the one and done rule and athletes going straight into the NBA out of high school, it's going to diminish college basketball. Nobody can tell me or convince me, at least they haven't yet, that not having Kevin Durant or Kevin Love or Derrick Rose or Zion Williamson makes college basketball better. It doesn't. Of course, it doesn't. You take that kind of talent out of the game, it's not going to enhance the product. But it'll still be really good. It'll still be compelling and fun and all that stuff. But you do worry a little bit about NBA people being back in high school gyms for practices and for games and scouting, and what's that going to do? College is going to be a lesser option now for young people, where I think it should be a primary option because of the socialization and education that you receive in college. But I do think college is a great thing for any young person.
Can I play devil's advocate for a second?
Yeah.
What if it makes college basketball better? And in a sense where now we have NIL and now we have this, I couldn't even call it a middle tier because there's still fantastic athletes, but maybe people like me, for example, who might not even have dreams of going to college, but now it's this second division of basketball where you have guys who are there for 4 years who might never play pro. Maybe they do, but it almost strengthens the fan base and the people who are fans of college basketball because they are sticking with certain players for longer. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do, and that's a great point. It's just that I think there are a number of fans out there, if not a lot, that say one thing yet do another. So they say that they miss the old days where players stuck around for 4 years and they got to know them and got to fall in love with the team or recruiting class. But the truth is, what really moves the needle is a player like Zion Williamson. So people say they like what you're describing, but yet Zion Williamson is in the game, and the ratings are through the roof. I mean, we couldn't get enough Zion when he was at Duke. Could not get enough. And same with Kevin Durant and all these others. People are drawn to superstars, and whether they're there for a year or longer. And look, you're too young to remember this, but I'm not. So when I was a kid, when the game of the week was on Saturday, that was literal. There was only one game on a week nationally. That was
Yeah.
true in the NFL and the NBA, and it was true in college. So when people say, "Hey, I miss the days when you could watch Larry Bird at Indiana State," you didn't watch Larry Bird at Indiana State. Like, his games weren't on television. They might have been on television locally in the state of Indiana, but the truth is, most fans only saw Larry Bird when he played in the NCAA tournament in 1979. And they didn't see all these teams. Like, the game, you can see any game you want anytime you want now, and there's more fandom, there's more knowledge about players nationally than there's ever been. So look, the NBA is more popular than college. It's certainly more popular with young people, and I think college needs to be cognizant of that. If we want to grow the game, being more inclusive is better than being less. And there's still a mindset among college administrators that if you don't want to stay 4 years and be Bill Bradley or Shane Battier, then we don't want you at all. And I think that's that's not something that I agree with. That's sort of a hoity-toity, snooty attitude, in my opinion, and it's an elitist one. That somehow college isn't for everyone, and if you're not, if you're not going to college in order to learn how to split the atom, it's not worthwhile for you. I think that's a negative view of things that I don't share.
Yeah, I agree with you on that point as well. And a lot of people even ask me if college helped me in my career, and it did significantly. And, a lot of people say you don't need college to do this and that, or if you're following entertainment. But I agree with you on that. College was really beneficial for me. One more subject on this kind of topic before we move on. You talked about guys playing at college for more than 1 year. And it seems like right now the NBA doesn't really want guys the longer that they're in college. They're looking at these young guys with fresh legs, 1 year, maybe 2 years. What do you think about that? And how have you seen that kind of trickle into the NBA?
It's not that the NBA doesn't want players that stick around longer. It's that they want talent. So, the younger players that have immense talent have been leaving early to capitalize on that talent. So it seems like they want these younger players. They want the most talented players. And, if Kevin Durant decided to stay at Texas for 4 years, he still would have been taken at the top of the draft. It's just players leave earlier now because of the money available to them. And part of that's changed. Like they're leaving earlier too, because of what I said before about trying to get to their second contract. Like it used to be you made boffo money out of the gate. You could sign a $60, $70 million contract out of college back in the day. 15, 20 years ago, whatever it was. Now there's a rookie salary cap. So you got to get through that 3-year period and an option. And then you get to your second contract where the real money exists. So getting there earlier is part of the strategy for players.
Got it. And with that, I would like to take a halftime break if you're down.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know that you are familiar with Courtside Club. I thought of a really fun game for you. Thank you. I appreciate that, Jay. I have a fun game for you for today's halftime show. I know that you're a Jeezy fan, and you've been tweeting lyrics of his. Is it daily?
Daily, every morning.
For years now. Before we even get into the game, how did that start?
I'm a music fan like most people. I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, we were on the road for college game day and we were at Michigan State, and Draymond Green was warming up and he had a big set of headphones on, and we asked him what he was listening to, and he said Young Jeezy. And one of my colleagues asked me, is that on, and this is back when there were iPods, I think. He said my colleague said, is that on your iPod? And I said, actually it is. I had TM 101 on my playlist, and so people didn't believe it, and somehow on Twitter I was going back and forth with folks, and I started putting out, like, I would respond with a lyric or something. I think I actually had to go into my law office and I had to cut the conversation short, so I got to go to work on there, and it just, I don't know what happened, but it just kind of caught on. I started doing it, and now it's become an expectation, a daily expectation for me.
That's your signature sign off. No, I love it. It's so unique, and I feel like unexpected for someone who otherwise is kind of just immersed in sports. So for halftime today, I have some lyrics, some Jeezy lyrics, of course, and I want to see if you can
you're not going to try
them.
to get me to tell you what the song is, are you? I'll screw it up.
I think you got these. I'm going to read the lyrics, and I'm going to try to not do it to the beat, and I'll probably embarrass myself in the process as well. Let's see. Let's start it off. Hopped up out the bed. I think my roof gone. Think I forgot to put my roof on. Said F it, buy another car. Hopped out the limb. Said F it, bought another car.
That could be any Jeezy song. I got no idea.
I'm going to give you one more from this song, because I picked kind of a harder one because I wasn't sure, how deep you were into it. Okay. You think you ballin' because you got a block? He think he ballin'.
Oh, that's ballin'. Yeah, that's ballin'. Yeah.
There we go. See, you knew it. I just had.
I mean, if you go with the chorus, I can get it.
Okay. So ballin'. That was our first one. This one is a fun one. Enemy of the state. They calling me Will Smith. Thing on my side. You can call that Jada. Them boys talking down. Yeah, we call them haters. I'm balling right now, so we'll get back to that later.
I have tweeted this one. You gonna give me the chorus on that?
Trap all day, play all night.
I got no clue.
It's go get it.
Go get it. Yeah, go get it.
All right, last one. I know you know this one. In the city where we gone do broke, we like figures. Get that bag, then we go into work like Jay Bilas.
The Function remix?
That's the Function remix.
It's got to have my name in it.
Of course.
That was the coolest. That might have been the coolest thing ever.
Did you know that he was going to mention you?
No. The only, I've had some really cool interactions with Jeezy. One of the cool things is every once in a while, it's been a while since this has happened, but he would call or text and say, hey, I'm dropping an album. Would you put it out? And ask me to put it out first. I'm like, how cool is that? That was really, really cool. I've met him on several occasions, and he couldn't be a better dude. And, we come from vastly different backgrounds, but the fact that I appreciate his art form, and he is been kind enough to be nice to me. That's a really cool thing.
You're like the Jeezy insider, dropping all the exclusive stories.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but for a guy who's 58 years old to have that kind of fun, it's pretty neat for me.
Okay, last thing on Jeezy, top 5 Jeezy songs.
Anything from TM 101, I would say, I would put at the top of that list. That's my favorite album of his. I would say the Recession album is up there too. But My Hood is my favorite song. It's probably the least hard edged of his hits. But that's sort of my favorite.
I love that. Okay, time for the second half.
All right, people, we're brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook, the greatest sports betting app of all time. See, it's not just about the daily promos, odd boosts, or the hundreds of ways to wager. It's about the immortal words of Caesar himself. You bet, you get with Caesars Rewards. Every bet you place on the app, no matter the outcome, earns towards exclusive perks at Caesars Rewards destinations everywhere. Hotel stays, concert tickets, bonuses, and more. Download the Caesars Sportsbook app, become a Caesars Rewards member today, and get more with every wager. Must be 21 or older to gamble. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-522-4700.
We got off track a little bit on Coach K, but I did want to ask, because you have not only played under him, but also coached with him for a few years. What is the craziest thing that Coach K did, whether it be in practice, that a story that we haven't maybe heard yet?
He did a lot of crazy stuff. He would, there were times he would come into the locker room and have something set up for us. Before a game we played my freshman year, we were playing Louisville, and back then Louisville, their nickname was the Doctors of Dunk, and they went to the Final Four that year and played in that iconic game with Phi Slamma Jamma in the Final Four. And we had some ups and downs during the course of the early season, and all of a sudden, we're waiting for his pregame speech, and the lights went out. And we're like, what else is going to go wrong? Like, now we have no power. And we immediately went to the negative. We took a trip to Negative Town. And all of a sudden we see this flickering light coming down the hallway. And he's got a candle in front of his face. So all you could see was his face in this pitch darkness. And all he said was, I came not to praise Louisville, but to bury them. And blew the candle out, and all the guys started jumping up and screaming, and then we ran out on the court, and we had a great first half, and then they kicked our in the second half.
No.
So we lost the game, and that was the last time we saw the floating head candle thing. If you don't win, he doesn't do that kind of stuff again. But he does stuff like that from time to time. I was already gone, but he came into the locker room one time dressed as Rocky with boxing gloves on and a robe, and I think he did a thing as from Gladiator for the team one time, where he came in dressed as Russell Crowe and Maximus Decimus Meridius, I guess. So he does that. He not very often, but he does. He would do some stuff like that from time to time.
I love that, because we only see him in his suit, and just kind of locked in. But I can't even imagine him with like a candle.
Those are
under
kind of
his
tricky.
chin.
Yeah, those are kind of tricky. Like for Coach K, because most people don't know this. Like, he's insanely funny. He's got a great sense of humor. You don't see it as much during the course of the regular season, because he's pretty intense. But he's really funny and very quick-witted on comebacks and stuff like that. But I think sometimes when you do some of that stuff, it can take you off a little bit. And it depends on your team and how they're gonna process it. You don't want to do anything that's gonna guys are gonna be making fun of you later on. But he could be really funny, sometimes unintentionally. Like, sometimes he'll make a mistake when he's talking to you, and that's the thing that we would seize on. Like, he has this, he's from Chicago, and he uses the word yo a lot. Like, so he'll say, hey, yo, do this, yo. Like, he's constantly saying that to get people's attention or start a sentence or whatever. And I can't remember, it was my freshman year. We played a team that had a guy on the team named Yo. His name was spelled Yohe, And so we caught on the scouting report. And then when we went out to do our scout, when we were going through drill work, every time we'd get a hand up on the shooter, somebody would go, yo. They would just, we were saying yo every 5 seconds, pointing at the guy, yo, yo, watch out for yo. And Coach K caught on after a while and said, hey, I hear you guys saying yo. Like, that's real funny. We'll see how funny it is when yo is kicking your tomorrow, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you had to be a little careful throwing it back at him.
To be a fly on the wall during that era would have been really fun. Do you consider him the greatest college basketball coach ever?
I do, just because so I grew up in LA, and John Wooden was at his heyday when I was growing up. And he retired in 1975. And so Wooden won 10 national championships. Nobody's ever going to approach that again. Coach K won 5, and it should have been more. I guess you could argue it could have been less, but I think it should have been more. But and he knocked on the door a lot. But nobody did it at that level for 40 years. And he did it all on television. So he's going to be the toughest act to follow in basketball history. And I don't think anybody's going to reach that number. Jim Boeheim may coach until he's 80 and do it, but nobody starting now is gonna approach that. There's too much money in the game. It's too difficult now. I don't think you'll see the kind of longevity that Coach K had. I don't think you'll see that again.
And who are your starting 5 players to ever come out of Duke?
To ever come out of Duke, I would put Grant Hill and Christian Laettner at the top of the list. Those are the 2 best players Duke's ever had, in my view. JJ Redick's the all-time leading scorer and the best shooter, so I would put Redick up there. For me, like some of the one-and-done guys, had they stuck around longer, would be no-brainers there. But since they didn't, you'd probably go with the guys that were there longer. You'd probably have to have a point guard there. So to me, it would be between Bobby Hurley and Tommy Amaker, and I'll put Hurley in there. And what else would you need on that team? Like maybe a small forward. I would probably go with either Shane Battier or Danny Ferry in that last spot. Go with Battier because Danny Ferry couldn't guard a chair, so I'd go with Battier.
So we have Shane Battier, JJ Redick, Bobby Hurley, Grant Hill, and
Christian Laettner.
Is
that 6 or 5? Did I get 5 or 6?
That's 5. Yeah.
5.
That's 5.
Sweet.
I like it. I do a show called the NBA Rising Stars Report with the NBA, where we follow rookies and kind of sophomores in the league, just the up and coming NBA players. And we always look at the rookie ladder. So are there any rookies right now that have really stood out to you? We have Banchero, we have Mathurin kind of at the top of the list, but any that you're really interested in this season?
I'm sorry that Chet Holmgren's not playing, because I was really looking forward to seeing what he was going to do. But Banchero's been the best, arguably, with his size and skill level. I think he has performed at a really high level. So it's hard to get beyond that as the best. But I really believe that Ben Mathurin was a steal in the draft where he got drafted. I didn't anticipate he would be this good this early. And he has this mindset of being the best player. Like, he really believes he is. And I think that serves him really well. Those 2 have stood out. I'm still waiting for Jabari Smith. I think Jabari Smith is going to be great. And he's played really well at times, but Banchero's been more consistent at the highest level than Jabari Smith coming out.
I've seen that a lot of the rookies have had more confidence, I feel like, in the past few years when I've really been paying attention to the NBA. And I don't know if it has something to do with these younger guys being on a bigger stage earlier, even when it comes to like social media and how the media has covered players in high school now more than we ever have. And they're kind of getting that visibility and getting that platform. But I've just seen so much confidence, and guys are stepping on the court with LeBron, with KD, with these superstar players, and they are up for that challenge. They respect the guys, but they're not scared anymore.
Yeah, that's true. But they're better prepared at a younger age than players were in the past. So they play more basketball at a higher level younger than players ever did before. And They prepare themselves like, it seems like everybody has a personal trainer when they're in high school now. So the players today are better than they've ever been. Now, it doesn't mean that Michael Jordan wouldn't be the best player now, or Oscar Robertson or Jerry West. I'm not saying that. But the average player now is infinitely better than the average player was 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever. I don't know why in basketball we seem to harken back to the old days that the players were somehow better, tougher, or more skilled years ago. It's just not true. They're far better now, and the game is better. A big guy now has to do so much more than a big guy used to have to do years ago. I mean, you have to be able to shoot the ball from the perimeter. Guys have to guard ball screens and still get back in the post and protect the rim and all that. So there are more opportunities for big guys to pick up fouls now than ever before. And the game is faster, more wide open. It's just an infinitely better game and more challenging than ever and more sophisticated. And that goes for college too. The college players now are better than they've ever been. They just don't stick around as long. So the only shot that teams from my era would have today is we were older. So you could say we'd have a chance, but athletically, skill-wise, these guys are better than they've ever been.
Yeah, players have to play 94 feet, both ends of the court. 94 feet is something that you know very well, and a series that a lot of your fans have tuned into. What is your favorite episode of 94 feet that you've ever done?
Well, I like it with, I tend to enjoy the coaches as much as anything because you ask them a question like you'll say to Bill Self at Kansas, all right, what was your first car? And immediately his eyes light up and he says, yellow Dodge Dart, and he talked about the interior and all that stuff. Some of the younger players aren't as, they're in it right now. So maybe the nostalgic stuff about, your favorite food or this or that. The coaches seem to be more into it because they get to talk about something different. My favorite one is still the first one I ever did. We were challenged by ESPN, by our bosses at ESPN, to come up with things that were different. And so a producer that I work with quite a bit named Scott Gustafson, we got together and said, all right, what can we do? And we started talking about some different things. And I had seen something on the NFL Network. At the time, it was called 40-Yard Dash. It was during the Combine, I believe. And I saw it one time, and I've never seen it since. I've looked for it. I've never seen it since. So it was a similar thing, but just 40-yard dash. And I said, why don't we do something like that? And Gus came up with the idea of, call it 94 feet, and we could do it quickly. And then it gets into the broadcast, and it doesn't take up too much time, that kind of thing. And we did it with Jay Wright of Villanova. And it was probably 10 years ago, something like that. They were playing at Virginia, and I know Jay really well. And so I asked him if he'd do it, and he immediately said yes. So we didn't have a lot of, we'd never done it before. So it wasn't like I could prepare him or he knew what was coming. So I explained the concept to him. And I asked him the first question. I think I asked him, what was your favorite TV show as a kid? And Jay's response was, oh, that's a good question. My favorite TV show. And he starts, what was my favorite TV show? He goes, that's a good one. And we got into the opposite free throw line by the time he answered the question. And I'm like, you effed the thing up on the first time. And so we had outtakes from it. And it was one of the only times we'd ever done it twice. Usually we knock that thing out in one take, and we might walk again so they get B-roll from different angles of us. But we usually only do it once. And I still tease Jay. It was still the only time, or one of the only times that it got screwed up. And it was, Mr. Hall of Famer screwed the thing up.
Who is one person that you would love to have on 94 feet?
Just about anybody. I think you'd be great. I've loved it. I mean, the one that stood out and got the most attention was when I did 94 feet with Red Panda on the unicycle. That was really cool.
Red Panda. She's an icon in halftime performances. Yeah.
Just awesome. And so we did that at Virginia Tech one time, and that got more, sort of more eyeballs than anything I've ever done with that. But it's a really fun deal. I've done it with Tom Izzo. I've done it with Tom Izzo on the court. I've done it in Maui on the beach, and then I've done it with him on the football stadium in the snow wearing snowshoes. We did it a few years ago that way. So that's kind of fun to do those things. but there's nobody I wouldn't like to have, just because it's a really fun deal, and it gives people a little bit of a different view of the players, and some of them are really quick and really enjoy it, and others are nervous. So it gives you a mixed bag.
Yeah. Jay, do you have a TikTok? Because I feel like this would be a fantastic series on TikTok. You could get all of the ones that you've already done, cut them vertically, and then any that you do moving forward, just make that your TikTok page, and I guarantee you would have 1 million followers like overnight.
I should do that. That's great.
I do 94
TikTok.
feet.
Yeah, I do TikTok. That's a good idea. I'll get on that because I'm looking to put that stuff out. I put it out sometimes on Instagram. But yeah, TikTok would be good. I'm still kind of feeling my way around TikTok. I look at it all the time. Those things are incredible time drains. You're sitting in an airport where I used to read. So I used to actually read books in airports, and now I'm just looking at Instagram and TikTok and all this stuff. And following. I follow these cooking sites and or accounts, and I don't cook that much. And I don't know why I watch cooking shows, but I like them, and because I like food, but like what a time waste that is. I cook a little bit, but not very much, and yet I watch all this cooking stuff. It's like me watching Fixer Upper. My wife watches me watch Fixer Upper, and she's like, "You don't ever do anything with your hands. Like, why would you watch this?" And I go, "I like it." I'm like, I don't know why I watch it. I like it.
So, Jay, we are reaching the end of the game. I have some buzzer beaters for you. If you're down.
I'm down.
All right. What is the best game that you've ever been courtside for?
There have been a bunch of them. I did that 6 overtime game with Syracuse and UConn several years ago in Madison Square Garden. The best one was probably the Elite Eight game in 2005 between Illinois and Arizona that went to overtime. Illinois went on to the national championship game in 2005. But that game was iconic. I don't think I'll ever forget that one.
Who was one person, dead or alive, that you would love to sit courtside with?
Sean McDonough, dead. I've been asked that question a lot, and I answered it one time, and Sean McDonough called me and said, "What? Not me?" And I told him, "Yeah, I'd like to be with you, dead." One person courtside, Muhammad Ali. I would like to sit with Muhammad Ali courtside.
That's a good one. Michael Buffer had that same answer when we had him on the show. And
let's get ready to rumble.
Yeah, but obviously
Dang.
He has a special relationship with him too. Okay, last question. What is one event in history that you would have loved to have been courtside for? It could be a sporting event or other.
I would have loved to have seen Sandy Koufax pitch in person. I met him a couple times. I was a huge fan growing up. He retired when I was just a little kid, so I had no memory of him playing. But he was a legend, not only nationally as a baseball pitcher, and retired early. I mean, he'd only pitched. I mean, he had an arm issue and wanted to have a real life, so retired after being the most dominant pitcher. And I hit golf balls next to him one time at a charity golf tournament, and I was such a fanboy. If it were today, I would have been taking selfies with him in the background and all that stuff. It was pre cell phone selfie stuff. But I would have loved to have watched him pitch. I was such a huge fan of his, even though I didn't really see him play.
Love that. Well, Jay, thank you so much for joining us on Courtside Club. Let everybody know where they can find you on social, and especially your TikTok, and anything else that you have going on that we should be on the lookout for.
I think it's all at Jay Bilas. So it's at Jay Bilas on Twitter, at Jay Bilas on Instagram, and I think it's at Jay Bilas on TikTok. I don't even know how that works, but yeah, I think it's all those things. You can tell I'm not out, shooting my social media to everybody. So you're not going to let me do a 94 feet with you? I don't get to do a 94 feet with you?
Oh, I would love to. Absolutely.
All right, let's do it.
I'm down.
What's your favorite thing to eat that you're not supposed to eat?
Oh, we're doing it right now? Sure.
Yeah.
French fries, favorite food.
Who bakes the best French fries?
Oh, that's a really
you
tough
got
one.
one French fry.
Honestly,
are you going to McDonald's? You going to
Oh, no, not fast food. Normally, honestly, like hotel room service French fries are some of the best.
Ooh, the crusty ones.
Yeah, they're like thick too. Yeah.
What was your favorite toy as a kid?
Favorite toy? Probably my Razor scooter. I don't know if that's a toy.
That's a
But
toy.
yeah, I used to
Yeah,
golf
mine would have
ramps
been a
and
big
stuff
wheel,
on it.
but that's a toy. That's a
Yeah.
toy. What is your dream vacation?
Oh, I would love to go to Africa and go on safari and just see all the big cats in their natural habitat. When I was a kid, I actually had a jar where I used to put all my extra change and money, and it was my jar to Africa because I just wanted to see the big cats. I don't know where that money went, but I'll just have to use my salary now to go.
Pet peeve.
Oh, shoes in the house.
People can't wear shoes at your house?
No, absolutely not. I
Why?
don't like dirty floors. I like to be able to walk around and not get dirt on my feet in my own home. So shoes are at the door.
So you're cool with people walking around barefoot in your house?
Mostly it's socks, Socks are fine.
Oh,
But
so do you
I don't
require
want
socks?
I don't require socks, no.
Yeah, I don't want somebody's smelly feet walking around my house.
So you'd rather have like the dog poop that they stepped on their shoe going through your house?
Usually the people I invite over, I think, are nimble enough to avoid stepping in dog. But maybe your friends are different than mine.
Maybe.
All right, pet peeve on an airplane.
Oh, but now that you say it, people that take off their shoes on an airplane and their feet smell. Is that why you asked that as a follow-up question?
Yeah, that is kind of top of the list for me.
Yeah.
That and I actually enjoy talking to people on airplanes. But I think an airplane for me is just transportation. I'm trying to get from one place to the other, and it's not always pleasant. So sometimes I'm slow to talk to the person next to me unless they really start it up. And once I get going, I'm really glad that we got to know each other and had the conversation because people are really interesting. But I'm not as open to that as I should be, and I need to get better at that. But the other thing that bothers me personally, and this 94 feet is becoming less about you and more about me now.
No, I like it.
I always get an aisle seat. People put me in the aisle because they think because I'm bigger, I want that. But when somebody has to go to the bathroom 8 times during a flight, it seems like I get next to the smallest bladdered passenger on every flight I'm on. So that's why I'm more of a window seat guy now because I don't get up during flights.
I'm with
when
you.
somebody has to get up 1,000 times.
Yeah, no, I would be a great person to sit next to because I sleep the whole time and I never get up and I'm always in the window seat. It's like I get on a
snorer?
plane. No, I mean, not that I know of. No one's ever told me. I get on a plane, I'm immediately asleep. It's like my body knows this is your nap time. So.
All right, last question for 94 feet.
Okay.
What would you say is your ultimate career goal? Like, what do you want to retire from when it's all over?
I would love my own daily show, honestly. Something that mixes sports with entertainment. That's what I've always done. Sports will always be in my soul, but I like mixing it with everything else that's going on. And I just want to give people something fun to watch and escape that, from their daily life. They come to my show, they have a good time. I tell other people's stories. I have great guests on, and they can tune in every single day. So.
Well, aside from me, now you've checked this off your bucket list. I can't imagine how coveted this was. Ultimate bucket list guest for your daily show that you're going to retire from someday after you accept your 17th Emmy.
You're right. Jay checked off the list. We got that.
Can you imagine the dream come true this has been?
Oh, absolutely. I could retire today, but I'll keep going. Okay, so this might sound really weird, but I would love to speak to Jane Goodall. Again, we alluded to animals in the past. It's a little bit of a stretch from the sports world, but that's just always someone that I've looked up to and been enamored by. I think what she's done just like for the environment and for animals and whatever is really cool. So I'd love to sit down with her. One other person in sports would be Allen Iverson. He was my favorite player growing up. I met him once, and I don't I don't fangirl very often, but I had a little bit of a moment. So in sports, AI, otherwise Jane.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you for being on 94 feet. I think we went 188, but sorry to keep you that long.
That's fine. Sorry I didn't answer quick enough.
It was awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming on Courtside Club. Now I can retire.
Yeah,
It's been a good run, you guys.
You had a great career. We'll have a party for you. It's been a great run.
I'll take it.
What's up, guys? It's Rachel DeMita. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Courtside Club. Make sure that you like, rate, and subscribe to ESPN's YouTube channel and wherever you listen to your podcasts. We have new episodes coming to you guys every single week, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you soon.